Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Barry Erickson, and I'm Community Engagement Coordinator here at Wheaton Public Library. Tonight, we are delighted to bring you another art demonstration in partnership with the DuPage Art League. Founded over 60 years ago, the DuPage Art League is dedicated to promoting and encouraging the visual arts through classes, workshops, gallery exhibits, and public programs such as this one. We are grateful to the Art League for arranging tonight's demonstration by Steve Puttrich. Steve works in both Chicago and Holland, Michigan as a fine artist, instructor, and inventor. He has more than 40 years experience in watercolor and oil. He teaches artists to make work that truly connects through three core pillars: design, story, and freshness. Steve teaches workshops around the country, builds tools like the Fairview Finder to help artists compose with clarity and purpose, and is frequently asked to judge art shows and plein air events. He's on the faculty of Madeline Island School of the Arts, Chicago's Palette and Chisel Academy of Fine Arts, Scottsdale Artist School, and will be presenting at the Plein Air Convention and Expo this May in those Ozarks. His demos are fast, clear, and encouraging, grounded in decades of real-world painting and teaching. Please join me in welcoming Steve Puttrich.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us all at home. We've got a great crowd here, and I've got a good demo that I'm going to be doing for you guys. But first, I want to talk a little bit about art and what really makes art connect to you, the painter, and of course, your viewers and buyers of your art, if you do sell your art. I am frequently asked to judge various plein air events, art shows, pretty much around the country. And when I do that, I look for those three pillars that Barry mentioned at the beginning: design, story, and freshness. And I often say to my artists in my workshops that if you have $100 to invest in making your art, bringing your art up to that next level, spend $80 on learning everything you can about design. The elements and principles of design are incredible. You can Google those. The elements are, line, value, color, texture, edges, the tangible things. Those are the elements. The principles are a little more harder. There's more principles. There's about 15 of them. Google them, research them, put them into ChatGPT if you run through that, and really study good design, and study it in a way that it captures your imagination, because everybody is going to be different, and design is going to be slightly different from everybody else, but there are some good principles of design to use, and I'll be going through a few of these. Mainly value and contrast. Value is one of the elements of design. Contrast is one of the principles of design. So I brought some handouts. Everybody has some handouts of the contrast. They're on the back table there. And also for those online, you could also download the handouts as well. But this is a nice little exercise. I'll be showing this down here on the table. But I want to showcase this for, I call this my grounding values. Let's put this up here. And what this is a single composition of, I call this a steelyard composition from Edgar Payne's book, where you have a big element on one side and a smaller element on another. And it has three shapes. It has a background shape, a middle ground shape, and a foreground shape. And those grounds have three different values. You have a light, middle value, and a dark value. And by mixing and matching the light, medium, and dark that occupies the background, middle ground, foreground shapes, you get six possible motifs that you could design with. So these top two, let me explain these. The background shapes are light. The middle ground shapes now flip-flop between middle value and dark value in the foreground, and dark value in the middle ground and middle value in the foreground. So those two are done. The middle ones are, the background shapes are middle value, and I am using the light and the dark now to hold the middle ground and the foreground. And then I flip-flop those with the darks and the lights. And then the last two here are, the background is dark. Now all I have to work with is the light and the middle value. So the middle ground is the light value, foreground is middle value. And on this one, the foreground is light value and the middle ground is middle value. I would encourage all of you in the room and online to actually do, not this size maybe, but do like if you're a watercolorist, do a half a sheet would be perfect for this. Do up your own worksheet. It will help you see and simplify your scenes down to the basics of light, medium, and dark value that occupy a background, middle ground, foreground shape. Super fun exercise. If you guys teach art in workshops, get your students to do this. Your ability to simplify your scene down to light, medium, and dark, background, middle ground, foreground, is your superpower. Simplification is, ironically, it's a paradox, is the hardest thing to do as an artist. Because when you go out in your plein air adventures or in your studios, you are going to be inundated with all this detail, right? You see all the detail and you want to paint that detail. So detail is probably number one priority on your checklist. And then you get down to maybe color is probably your next one. And then value may be like 8th or 9th on the list. It's that other thing you learned in school. You really don't need it. But I would challenge you to flip-flop those priorities. Put value at number 1 and put detail at like 8 or 10. Okay? Because some detail is important, maybe on 20% of your painting, but the other 80% really supports that 20%. And I'm going to talk about that with contrast. Oh, let me show you a few sample paintings that really illustrates this point. So this one is a scene from a small town that Bobby is my wife. She's also an artist. We went to southern France for a Kathy Odom workshop, and beautiful little town in southern France called Fountain de Vaucluse, and where the water is coming right out of the mountains, and it forms these beautiful little rivers and little waterfalls, and it's surrounded by all these rocks and incredible sycamore trees all over the place. So I took a photograph. My job, again, is as a simplifier, is to find those middle values in the background, the light value in the middle ground, and the dark value in the foreground. So by having a simplified value plan of middle, light, dark, background, middle ground, foreground, the painting goes super fast. It's an incredible way of painting. I also love sketching. So I'll have little sketches of my scenes following the value plan, light, dark, middle. This is a light, dark, middle here. This is I would say a middle, light, dark. You can go even little thumbnails as well, even tinier, and get the light, middle, dark in the foreground, dark in the foreground, light in the middle ground, middle value in the background. Yeah, so you're designing in the abstract now, and that's where you want to be. And then you hit it with your 20-80-80-20 rule of contrast, which I'll talk about next. Your paintings are just going to rock. Because quite often people get fixated on detail and they love the detail, and they're struggling with too much detail over the whole painting, and people are walking up to that painting and they're seeing a lot of detail with not a whole lot of focus on like the center of interest, and they walk away, and you wonder, why are they walking away from, this painting that I spent 40 hours painting? Look at all that beautiful detail. They're not interested in your ability to paint detail. They want to be moved. They want to be engaged. They want to be transported to a memory or a story that painting connects to their heart. Detail is not going to do it. So, okay. This is contrast is a principle of design. Within the handout, kind of read the notes that I have up here. But the power of contrast in design, I broke it down into 12 unique tool sets, more or less, that you can implement within your paintings. So, and I like to follow a 20-80 rule. A ratio of 80% is the antagonist, and the protagonist of the story is the 20%. I call this my David and Goliath concept of the design, where David is occupying that 20% of the painting, 20% of that real estate, okay? He's the small little hero. Goliath is the giant, that 80%. So the Goliath in this is these various shades of gray. So number one is value, the contrast between light and dark. And just pretend this is a full painting, okay? And just be aware of where your eye is going, wants to live. It wants to live in this area of high contrast, where the lightest light is right next to the darkest dark. Right there. Okay. The next one is edges. So the hard edge versus soft edge. So practice 20% of that painting is going to be a hard edge. 80% is going to be various shades of softness, from firm to soft to lost to just invisible edges. And notice again where your eye is traveling in this composition here. It's going to that hardest edge. Now that you know this, I'm putting my darkest dark also right next to the lightest light, because I learned that up here. My hardest edge is also my darkest dark. So now these tools are building onto each other, okay? Big shapes versus small shapes. Again, 80% of this painting is big shapes. The human heart loves to root for the underdog. I mean, we're from Chicago, right? We're rooting for those Bears, and and those cubs. But the underdog is that 20% of that painting, the hero of your painting. So I use the various size shapes. Small shapes attract the eye. Color intensity, pure color versus gray color. That pure color is going to be very attractive for the eye. Put 80%, 80% is going to be cool grays. Got some warm grays down here, but pure color is going to be that 20%. Temperature, the contrast between warm and cool. Can you guys see that? There we go. The contrast between warm and cool. Here I flipped it. Normally, the eye or the hero of the story is going to be that warm element within the painting. Here I broke the rule and I just flipped it. I said, okay, instead of the warm being the hero, I want the cool to be the hero. And it works. The eye is attracted to this area of the painting, despite this being cool, warm, and then that being cool. The ratio of placement within the composition. I like to use the golden rule, which I, break up your painting in ratio of 1 to 1.6 and select one of these intersections to have a placement for your hero. And don't have a hero way out here. If you have this as your hero, don't have a secondary hero. You should always have one star of the show and give them the spotlight. Okay, let's go back to brushwork. So quiet brushwork versus active brushwork. 80% quiet versus active is going to be very attractive. The eye loves active brushwork, and that's where you get some of that detail coming out of the painting. Texture, smooth texture versus rough texture. Patterns. You've got, mowed hay fields here, and then a little interruption within that pattern is a hay bale out here, hay bale out there. So I picked this hay bale being the closest to warm that up and give me a nice hero to look at in here, and everything else is supporting that one little hay bale. I've got the ratio of the contrast between leading lines that are continuous versus discontinuous. So here the edge of the road is a continuous line that leads me to where I want to look at. And then a discontinuous line, it happens to be a broken line or a dash dot dash of sky holes that gently lead me back to that hero. Style, abstract versus representational. This is also kind of an important kind of technique approach to painting. You don't have to paint everything representational. You can give those quiet passages and allow those as more or less rest areas within your painting. And then the detail can be the representational part. And then the last one, subject. This is where you get the more or less pyramid of attraction, I'll say. So nature is, if you're a landscape painter, nature is going to occupy that 80, 90% of your paintings. And it's going to be out there, and it's going to be, that forms kind of like the base of that pyramid. The minute you put in evidence of human activity, so it could be a little house or a little hut on the beach, could be an umbrella under that beach, on the beach. So I made a kind of warm, bright umbrella. that is evidence of human activity. That's the next level up on this pyramid, okay, of attraction. Above that is a heartbeat. So anytime you have a heartbeat in your painting, that's going to be very attractive to the viewer. So let's put a little dog under this umbrella. That dog is alive. It's got a heartbeat, very attractive. Above the heartbeat is a human heartbeat. And so the human is above the animal. So that's your next level. And then above the human is going to be the face within the human. The face is top that. And then now you're into portraiture, and above the face is the eye at the top of that pyramid. So you look at your dollar bill, flip it on the back, and you'll see the eye is typically on the very top. Okay, so again, another great little tool for you if you're a teacher or a workshop instructor or just an artist that wants to understand how these powers of contrast work in design, do that. Now, for a typical painting, you're going to have 3 or 4 of these, maybe 5. But now that you know this, you can mix and match these to your advantage. Okay. Okay, a little commercial break here. Barry mentioned I am an inventor. I worked for Parsons Engineering for 35 years as a artist and a vice president of marketing and innovation. And I love creating things. So wherever I see a problem in a workshop, it's I look at as an opportunity to make money. So I love selling products, but and this is a little product I made. All the artists had various ways of framing their scenes. And this is a little tool I made. It has 5 unique windows that open up according to the panel that you're painting on. So here I'm painting on a 14 by 18 panel. And that's going to be closer to this one here. So I'll open that one up. I've got tick marks. There we go. I got tick marks that illustrate the golden ratio. So by intersecting these tick marks, you can pick that lower right, lower left, upper right corner for your golden ratio. You've got Edgar Payne's composition ideas over here. Here's the steel yard that represents this one. And then, so you got 16 of his composition ideas, and then the grounding value motifs up at the top here that you can use as to remind you, simplify first. These are $35 on fairviewfinder.com. So, and the numbers just tell you which ratio this is. So this is 8 by 10, 11 by 14, 16 by 20, 22 by 28. Those are all this same ratio. Super fun little tool I made to help us see the composition. Is there anything else I wanted to show? Okay, so we talked about design. Good. I'm going to talk a little bit about story. Story is the ability for you to pull out a narrative from your scene. You're just not painting a scene that happens to be pretty, and then you paint the detail that you see and the shapes that you see, and then call it a day. You want to paint that scene for a purpose. Like within that scene, there's a story that can somehow connect deeper to you as the artist and to and to your viewers. So I was out there in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, painting for their plein air event. Their covered bridge park was a beautiful little location, and I saw this wonderful willow tree there, and I walked around it. I go, okay, there's a great little creek here, a lot of greens, variations of greens, but the wood that this willow tree had was just so warm and inviting. So this is the hero of my story, but the narrative didn't happen until I came up to the tree, walked around it, and I saw that it was growing a maple tree out of the willow tree's bark. It was a baby maple tree that was just growing. And I go, okay, there's my story. This little grandma willow tree here, and it was all broken branches all over the place because it had lived a good life, right? But at this moment in its life, she can grow another tree from her decaying area. And out of the bark and the branches that were broken was growing this beautiful little maple tree. It was a baby maple, and I go, okay, that's my story. It's called Grandma Willow. So it just gave me more incentive to paint this in the way it needed to be painted and honor the willow tree. So I'm using personification, I'm using anthropomorphism to pull out human emotion out of these elements within your scene. Do that. Disney does this, DreamWorks does it. My son-in-law works for DreamWorks, and he just does this all the time. He's a storyboard artist, and they love putting human elements into these things. So when I'm looking at art to judge, I'm looking at design, of course. I'm looking for story. So find those stories. And the third thing I look for is what I call freshness. Now, freshness is also can be translated as courage or confidence in your brushstroke. So if in your ability to see that color, see that shape, see that value and lay it down and leave it, that courage and that confidence is going to be transacted to the viewer that's seeing this painting, okay? The opposite is also true. If you're timid or fearful of laying that paint down, that fear is going to translate to the viewer of that scene, of that painting, and they're going to walk away. They're going to feel that fear from that brush, and they're going to walk away to the next painting because they don't want to feel that fear. So I look for those confident brushstrokes. I look for the courage and the certainty at which you laid that paint down. And that is what connects that painting to the viewers. And that's typically, so if it has a good design, a good story, and confidently painted, that painting is going to pretty much win a prize. So with that, well, that looks good up there. Okay, with that, let me finish off with this one here. This is a painting I did in Bussey Woods last year. It was a beautiful fall day. There we go. And of course, the hero is this tree, but the contrast between, the woody parts of the tree and the bright color of the leaves and the foliage was the story that I wanted to capture. So that was a beautiful little scene. Okay, so today I'm going to be painting on a sheet of PVC panel. PVC is just plastic, plumber's pipe. You could pass these around. That's an 8x10. I get this on Amazon. It's a super fun surface to paint on, unprimed. You just peel that plastic off, the protective coating of plastic, and you paint right on it. I learned this from Stephen Walker. He's a Oil Painters of America master, and he was giving a demo in Charleston, South Carolina, at their national convention. And I said, okay, Stephen, I had to ask him, what are you painting on? And he said, a sheet of PVC. And he goes, okay, but what are you priming that with? He goes, nothing. Just peel that plastic off and he paints right on it. You could paint on this with acrylic. Acrylic is plastic anyway, but acrylic paint loves that as well. I wouldn't do watercolor on that or pastel, but today I'm going to paint some hydrangeas for you guys. We live in Arlington Heights. We have a home in Arlington Heights, and we just bought a house in Holland, Michigan, and we're ultimately going to sell the Arlington Heights house, but sadly, we're gardeners, so we've just killed off all the grass in their backyard and grow wildflowers. And so in the center part of the garden the very center is like a wooded area to sit in, but then surrounding that is just a field of probably 8 feet around of mostly cosmos, white cosmos that grow like 7 feet, 8 feet tall. And then surrounding that is our our incredible hydrangeas. They're white hydrangeas. Their blooms grow this big. And that's going to be so sad to leave that. But every year I'm out there photographing this thing. So I have tons of photos that I'll be using to paint from in Holland. Okay, so I'm prepping the panel. So even though this is a sheet of plastic, and technically it's not going to absorb the oil, so I still prep it. And I would recommend oil painters, if they're painting on like a gesso primed surface canvas that you get at art supply store, that gesso primed acrylic canvas is probably been sitting on that shelf for years. And you go and you peel the plastic off and you start painting on it, and that oil paint just sucks in the oil, sucks that oil right out of the paint, and it just, because it's so thirsty. So prep your panels first. I learned this from Rose Franson, an incredible portrait painter. She's got an amazing studio in Iowa. But again, she was demoing and I was attending, and I go, okay, Rose, why are you doing that? Why are you prepping that panel? She would just put the Gamsol right on it, because Gamsol has a little bit of oil in it, and that oil just saturates the canvas, and the oil paint just glides on for the whole session. And it's just an incredible way of painting. I put a little bit of walnut oil, alkyd medium, in my Gamsol. It's like a 50-50 mixture, is 50% walnut alkyd and 50% Gamsol. And then I coat the whole painting and I wipe it down, and it's now a nice shiny surface. You can kind of see that shine. It's not drippy. It's just nice and juicy. Now let me point out to the reference photo that I'm using, which is a photo from my garden. And along the whole perimeter of our backyard, we're growing these arborvitae, which are just dark green, cool greens once they're in the shadows. And that's a perfect backdrop for these white hydrangeas in the sunrise. They get backlit, and it's just a glorious moment. So background dark, middle ground light, foreground medium. So the motif I'm using is going to be down here. It's one of these two, right? It's going to be one of these two. It's actually going to be this one. Background dark, middle ground light, foreground middle value. So now that I have this motif in mind, the painting is like, I'd say almost halfway done. Because I'm not worried about detail. Detail is like eighth, ninth, 10th priority. It's the values that are really what's going to carry this painting across. Now, I'm a super fast painter, so I'm delaying this. So I'm only going to give myself a half an hour to paint this painting. So when you're out there in your studio, and this is another paradox. The first paradox was it's so hard. The hardest thing is to simplify. That was the hardest. That was the first paradox. The second paradox is even cooler. I'm going to tell you a story to illustrate this next phase. Picture a playground, a school playground, and the kids have recess, right? And the playground goes right out to the sidewalk, and that sidewalk goes right out to the road. And the kids get out for recess, and they're playing very safe and secure in kind of in the middle of that playground, right? And the superintendent, the wise superintendent, sees this. Okay, they're only playing in the middle of that playground. So he builds a fence all around that playground. Now the kids are bouncing off the fence. They're using the entire playground. They feel safe. They feel confident. They're just playing and going for it. They're not afraid of being hit by a car or a car coming in. And so the same thing is for artists. If you're struggling with confident stroke making, brush making, give yourself a barrier. Give yourself limitations. And this is the paradox. You think, Steve, what are you talking about? Limitations. I want to have as much unlimited freedom as possible to paint. So I go into my studio, I have all day to paint. I have unlimited colors. I have unlimited brush strokes that I could put all this beautiful little detail I see in these paintings. And you wonder why, at the end of the day, you've spent 8 hours on this painting, and you wonder why you only got a mediocre result. Or, the freshness is just dead. There's no freshness at all. It's because you didn't give yourself limits. So next time you go into your studio, say, ideally, I'm going to paint this painting in 1 hour. I'm going to use these 3 colors, and I'm only going to use 60 brush strokes. That would be like a huge thing for you guys. So that's the limit. Limited time, limited palette, limited brush strokes. Your paintings will be so fresh, you will just scare yourself. There will be did I make that? It's like, dang, that was good. I'm going to do more limits, and I'm going to do harder limits. I'm going to do timed paintings. I'm going to do limited, counting my brush strokes to 20 and then just go from there. Your paintings will rock. So, barriers, okay? So, hey Siri, set a timer for 10 minutes. All right. I'm going to block this whole thing in 10 minutes. And if it doesn't look good, I've only wasted 10 minutes of my life, right? Here's my hero. This is going to be 20 minutes, 20% of the real estate of this painting is going to be this hero. This is going to be that light, that warm light coming through there. I've got dark greens. That are the arborvitae back in here. And of course, I'm using this very expensive $1.50 chip brush from Ace Hardware to block in. So big brush. This is the biggest brush I have. Yeah, that's about the same. Got a layer of green coming in here. I'm going to warm that up a little bit. And I'm using thin, transparent washes of color. Again, no detail. It's just, oh, that's spooky. I want to get some violets going in here because I love violet. This is middle value, right? The foreground is going to be middle value. This is where you have fun. Okay, this is the fun part of it. And for the watercolorists here, I'm using transparent oil paint, which is it's paint that doesn't have any white in it. So I'm getting the vibrancy of the white panel coming through that pigment, and it's just illuminating the pigment on the way out to your eyeballs. So my second favorite brush is shop towels from Costco. Shop towels. I think Target, you can get them at Target too.
Excuse me, Steve, can you tell us what types of paint you're using, the name brand perhaps?
Mostly Gamblin. I have a few Rembrandts in here. Still the green yellow is a Rembrandt color that I have. I also have a Michael Harding quinacridone gold. So I try to get similar pigment for my watercolors as I do with my oils. So Daniel Smith has an incredible line of colors. And if you haven't experienced quinacridone gold from Michael Harding or in oil or Daniel Smith in watercolor, you haven't lived. It's beautiful. Okay, so this part is going to be blue. I'm gonna get some blue into that. So pure color, pure. This is gonna be a little bit lighter in here, I'm seeing, and then a little bit lighter still. I'm loving this. I want to connect this up to that. This is, again, my second favorite brush. And I got this beautiful light ray coming down of the sun, just beaming onto that surface. I got these distant hydrangeas way back there in the shadows. I made them a little bit of purple. Let's get the arborvitae through here. I got a dark element in here. I have a dark leaf coming in here. Another leaf here. This is more bright green. I have beauty blenders. Now I have various ways of lightening things up. I usually go in it on it hard. I have the towels to lighten things up a little bit. So in this dark area, I want to get the little branches of the arborvitae coming in. I can lighten those up. I can get come in with my beauty blenders and just wipe away the shapes of some of these hydrangeas.
Steve, you told us the name of the gold. Can you share the name of this blue that you're using and the green?
Oh, yes. Quinacridone.
Should we go down to the palette?
Yeah, let's go down to the palette. Okay, so I have a warm titanium white. I have a violet gray by Holbein, makes a beautiful violet gray, which actually is a blue. I have a radiant blue from Gamblin, radiant violet from Gamblin. Utrecht makes a plum gray that is just beautiful. So if you like radiant violet, get Utrecht's plum gray. Joe Gerzak turned me on to that one. I have a little bit of yellow ochre, cad red medium, cad yellow medium. There's a little bit of brilliant yellow in here. These are my quinacridone gold from Michael Harding and still de grain yellow from Rembrandt. I have a quinacridone magenta, dioxazine purple. Those are both Gamblin, ultramarine blue. And I pick the center of my palette to have the blue all the time. So, and all up here is my transparent colors. Cobalt blue. I have usually I have a Viridian. I didn't bring Viridian, but I mixed my own Viridian here with phthalo green and a little bit of red to kill that phthalo. Sap green and this is cadmium green, which is a beautiful bright green, and then transparent red oxide, which is down here. Okay. I think I have a few more minutes. Step back. And if the painting, I don't like this blue I put up here, so I'm going to wipe that down. Oh, come on. I'm going to reestablish this quinacridone gold in here. And I'm going to lay the blue on top of that. Going to get a little gold down in here and a little up in here. There's my 10 minutes. Okay, I set the timer for 10 more minutes. So I use beauty blenders. I also use this little guy, which is just a color shaper, which gives me my whites. So if you were a watercolorist and you wanted to lay that wash down and you wanted to reclaim some of those whites, that's what this does. It just scrapes the paint away to the whiteness of that panel. So I use it as a drawing tool, kind of. I got lights over here. I got a light shape over in here. A little bit of light over here, and a little bit of light over in here. I like it. I'm gonna get some stems. Now I'm gonna spatter, do a little bit of spatter. And spatter is like spraying water on your moist watercolor. You're gonna get these little, or alcohol or salt. Just spray salt in there. Dip a clean brush into some clean Gamsol, wipe most of it off, and I'll just texturize. I don't know if you could see that or not. It's easy to overdo it. So you don't want to overdo it. But what you can do is now, if you by chance you did overdo it, you can come in and just gently blend some of these down, kind of forming the shapes of these hydrangeas. I like that going off like that, and this coming down like that. Let's warm this foreground one up a little bit and keep that one kind of cool. And step back. And when you step back, kind of look away, and that'll wipe your cones and rods off your eyes. So when you do look at it, kind of glance at it. Ooh, yeah, dang, okay, I like that. Look for this big entry point right in here. And then I have a leaf that's going to come in here that connects this up to here. And then I have another leaf coming in over here. And then another one coming in like that. Now, let's talk 3D modeling and animation. For one of my jobs in the engineering company that I worked at, Parsons, I was the manager of the 3D modeling animation group. I'm using principles of 3D modeling in art right now that's important for you guys to know. One word I'm going to teach you. It's a word called, and the word is called normal. The normals that appear on a three-dimensional shape. Let's take this for example. This is a cylinder, right? A three-dimensional cylinder. A normal is you stick a pinpoint in a flat plane at the top of this. So the normal on this top surface is pointing straight up. It's a perpendicular line coming off the plane of that. The normals on this cylinder are, it's going to be like a pincushion all the way around. So you've got various flat planes, right, that make up this cylinder. And that normal points you to where the influence of the color is on this cylinder. I should have wore, okay, here's a nice kind of a little block of red. If I hold this red up to here, the normals on, oops, the normals on this is pointing to that red sheet, and it's making the edge of this blue cylinder. I need 3 hands. Why don't I put blue on that? Do you guys follow? So the normals, it's like a pin cushion, like one of those tomato pin cushions you put the pins in. That's what normals are. Normals on the hydrangea head are like that pin cushion. They're all going out like this. So the normals on this edge are pointing to the sun, which is that warm white light. The normals on this side are pointing to the blue sky that's behind me. So, and you all have this, do they have this photo as a reference? So the blue on this hydrangea is at the top part, it's going to be very blue, bright blue as it comes down because it's reflecting the blue at the horizon line. And as this shape comes down, now the normals are pointing to all this warm area down in here. So you're going to get some greens on the bottom parts of these white flowers that are down in here. That's why White House in shadow on a sunny day is going to be blue because the shadow, the house in shadow is not getting all that warm light from the sun. And you're just going to get that blue light coming in here, and then that warm light coming in here. And then I got a nice dark leaf that happens right in here. Let's blue that leaf up and lighten up the value a little bit. So as that blue leaf comes out from underneath that shade of that flower, it's going to be picking up the blue of that sky that's over here because there's no light on this leaf. There's another leaf over in here. I'm going to blue that one up a little bit. And then it hits the sunlight right in through here. And then it follows on that. And then just follow the pattern. You got the blue light, In this case, it's looking more gray on this side of the flower. And as it turns, it's going to get warmer and warmer. So I'm going to warm that part up a little bit. Boy, that was another fast 10 minutes. It's coming together. This one has some blue over in here. Oh yeah. I'm going to get some nice warm quinacridone gold flowers right in there. And right next to that is going to be my bluest bloom right in through there. I'm going to leave those hard edges, warm color right next to the blue color. So when you're painting, you are the art director of this scene, right? Here's my star of the show. Now, you as the art director of this opera scene, right? If this character is overacting their lines a little bit, like if I threw something way out here, that doesn't look bad, but if I throw something way out there, it's going to be very distracting, that hard edge. So I'm going to soften those edges up a little bit. It's my job as the art director of this scene to quiet that character down. They're overacting their lines. Say, no, you can't have it. That's so once you have good leverage, enough leverage on here, you can throw a little more contrast in those other characters. The other thing I want you to think about is color. So now once your values of dark, light, medium are all squared away, you could throw any color you want into that value shape. So there's a nice radiant purple. And it works because that radiant purple is light enough and falls within that value range of that middle value right in here. If I needed it lighter, I'll add a light white and get a really nice radiant white light on that. And the combination of the yellow and the purple, the complementary colors are like vibrating. So you do that. So Todd Casey wrote this beautiful book on color. And his quote is, you can commit any sin you want with color, as long as that color falls into that value. Okay. That's why the Impressionists were so good at laying that color in. Monet had purples next to the reds, next to the yellows, and greens next to the reds, because those values were all the same. So he committed quite a few sins with color and got away with it. Let's go down with this one. Let's throw a little purple into this one. So this hard edge is taking away from this. So I'm going to soften up some of these. I got some little blooms back in here. Those are a little bit light. So I'm going to kill the value on that one. They're coming out too far. That's better. That's too dark for that spot. So I'm going to add some light and some blue to get some green. That's better. This one, and then a little bit on here. We're good on time, huh? Any questions so far from the audience online?
If you have a question, just raise your hand. I'd be happy to come to you with the mic.
I know I threw a lot at you. Let's get blue on this one. I'm going to get a little separation between these two flowers, just a little bit. I like the connecting aspect of them.
We've got a question here.
Is your background wash that you laid down, is that still wet as
Yes.
you're working over the top? How
Yeah.
long will that take to dry?
Because I put the walnut alkyd in it as the base, it'll be dry by tomorrow. Enough that I can glaze if I need to, or scumble. Glaze is using transparent oil to modify temperature of shapes. I like that. I like that.
Excuse me, Steve.
Yeah.
I've got a question from our virtual audience. Do you varnish your paintings?
Yes. I'll use Gamvar as a varnish. It's another Gamblin product. I like that. So if you have round objects in your scene, typically round objects like coffee cups or plates or saucers or apples or oranges if you're painting still lifes, or hydrangeas, you're going to get a stronger painting if your round shapes are squared off slightly. So look for those squared, straight shapes and make your round objects with squared lines. Look at Carol Morane's paintings of her still lifes, incredibly strong paintings. And she uses straight lines to make her round objects. It's beautiful. Oh, I didn't do that.
I've got another question here.
Yeah.
Why is the initial first color you put down on these flowers a yellow color when the flowers are mostly white?
Great question. In order to paint white, realistically, you need various shades of warmth and cool within the light parts and the cool parts, the shadow parts of your painting. Dang, that was a fast 10 minutes. And then you're only gonna, so here's some more blue, gray. It is a white flower, but in order to paint white realistically, you need to know how to paint grays. And the gray is going to be either cool gray or warm gray. And the warm I have is on the interior of this flower. There's a beautiful warmth that kind of enters that flower and ricochets around and then illuminates into this very warm kind of warm gray. It's a beautiful color.
How do you decide when to use watercolor or oil, and do you have a preference?
Oh, I love when I'm painting watercolor, I love watercolor. When I'm painting oil, I love the oils. It's a weird thing. However, I'll say this. If you want to grow as a watercolorist, pick up another medium, whether it's gouache or pastel, some other medium. Uh, I I love oil and watercolor, and whenever I paint a watercolor, it educates my oil painting. Whenever I paint oil painting, it's educating my watercolor. You will become a better painter by picking up another medium. You'll become a better painter in the original medium by picking up a different medium. It's strange how it works. Let me finish off this one. So if you guys like, if you've ever done who here like plein air paints outside, anyone? A few. All right. If you are interested in plein air painting, I would recommend a few plein air painting events. St. Charles has one every year. This is going to be their third year. I would sign up for that one, try to get in. Cedarburg, Wisconsin, 20 miles north of Milwaukee. From here, it's like a 90-minute drive. Beautiful little town. They have a week-long event like St. Charles that is so well run, like St. Charles. But there's no judging to get in. The first 150 artists that sign up get in to Cedarburg. That was one of my first plein air painting events, and I just had a blast. I painted mostly in watercolor, and I happened to win Best in Show that year. It was weird. Spencer Megan, do you know Spencer by any chance? He was one of the judges and just picked the first watercolorist to win the Best of Show, and happened to be mine. But they got great waterfalls, rapids, and running water if you like painting water. It's just a fun week of painting, first week of June. It's not too hot. But give yourself those challenges and, get out there and meet people and paint. Even though you may not get a winner, you'll have fun. You'll have fun all week long, painting the best way you can, and then you'll learn. You'll learn. You'll see, 100, you'll see probably about 350 paintings hanging on the gallery wall at the end of the week. These paintings are just everybody's best effort in painting. And like an artist, look at each painting and reverse engineer it. I like studying it for what's working, what's not for me. Some of these paintings are working well for me. Others, people looking at that art is going to enjoy that art more than I am. Everybody's different, but I look for it for myself to educate myself and to, hey, I haven't tried that yet. I'm going to try that. Put that down in my memory bank, or let me try that one next week, on another painting. Or this artist took a different viewpoint on this painting and just made it sing. And so, yeah, give yourself those challenges, and you will surprise yourself. It's just a beautiful way of living as an artist and growing as an artist. I'm rambling. I think I am just about done. How long was that? Let's get some stems in here, huh?
Do you mind repeating the type of varnish that you use?
Gamvar, Gamvar.
Thank you.
And wait for your paintings to dry, and then sign them, or sign them now. I like signing them with if that was, and for some reason, this is just me. It's not a hard, fast rule by any means, but wherever the hero is, I like signing on the opposite side. So if you got some straight lines, again, use your finger to ride that line down. Again, for some reason, I like this. If the hero is up in the upper right, I like the sign on the lower left. I don't know why. Okay. There, that's better. Less glare. Okay. Thank you. So yeah, it's pretty good. Um, I like, pardon me?
Painting's much better than the.
Oh, thank you. You look at it and you think, okay, I want to just fix little things here and there. But again, not much detail.
If you're doing plein air type of a study, would it be the same as a studio study?
Yes. Let me get a little more rounded on this flower up here.
Steve,
Yeah.
how did you plan out your design from the photograph? Or did you plan out the design when you took the photograph or then?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah,
then
I'm a photographer
transferring.
too. So again, look for that hero, put it in the 1/3, 2/3 type spot, and then look for objects to kind of yin and yang. Here, this is kind of a curve here. I've got a curve up in here. I've got elements connecting. I've got big swooshes of light, like light coming off of this one hydrangea. I just love doing that. Again, let me soften up some of these edges. Yeah. And then, so yeah, composition is super important. That's part of the overall design. Having a hero is the probably the easiest thing to do for an artist, and it's also the hardest, because now you're down here and you see all the detail, but you gotta resist putting that detail in. So some of this is, and I'll say this when I'm judging a show, if I see a painting that is like spectacularly painted, and my first impression is, boy, that artist is good. He's got remarkable talent. And then I walk away and I look at another painting that's spectacularly painted. But my first thought is, dang, this brings me back to a memory of my childhood that is connecting like a heavy duty emotional experience, and the focus is on me. That's a much better painting than when the painting is more focused on the artist. So when I walk away from a painting and I think of the artist, he succeeded in what he wanted to do. But this painting, this artist succeeded way beyond this other artist, because now this painting is all about me. Okay. And I'm leaving that room a changed person for having experienced that painting. This happened to me once with, if you ever painted at the Spring Valley, I think it's Spring Valley Nature Center in Schaumburg. One year, Deb Anderson painted this incredible painting. It probably took her 20 minutes to paint. And on the bottom of this painting, there was a single brushstroke that went clear across left to right. That's that freshness I talked about earlier, that confidence and courage in laying that stroke down. And then she interrupted it just a little bit with grass and things here and there. And then she left it. That painting moved me more than the second place winner, which was equally exquisitely painted. But I thought about the artist when I looked at this one, and I thought about me when I looked at this one. So I'm looking at that painting and I go, I'm going to live a more courageous life for having witnessed that painting. And I did. So I should have bought that painting. Deb, if you're online, I want to buy that painting.
We do have a couple of, we'll start with a couple of composition questions. Will you add any leaves?
There are indications of leaves in here. I would probably add a few little more structure elements of leaves. Whether it's a brush stroke here and there, yeah.
And
But
then,
for the most part, it's done.
okay, and then can you tell us about the orange flare?
This flare,
I believe that's what they're referring to.
let me cut that back. Whoever mentioned that, I like it, but it's overacting their lines. So there you go. Good point. Whoever caught that. There, it's quieter now.
And then back to the varnish again. What is your opinion of, and I might not be pronouncing this correctly,
Damar, yeah.
retouch varnish?
Damar is what they're finding is it's a good varnish for going into a dry painting and then just adding more layers on top of that, as another layer. I'll say it's a permanent varnish, whereas Gamvar is not. Gamvar you can remove with Gamsol. So future curators that need to touch up paintings or revarnish paintings will thank you for having used Gamvar rather than Damar varnish. Damar, you need some heavy duty chemicals. And if you're a thin painter, you're going to wipe off some of that paint. And it's just, plus it's more toxic. I think the Gamvar is pretty odorless. Yes.
Let me read off this one question and then we'll come over to the gentleman in person audience. Can you tell us a little bit more about the PVC panels, if there's certain brands?
Yes.
And perhaps where they can be purchased?
Yes, I get mine on Amazon, like most everything here. And let me pull up my my account, and it's under the product Duco, DUCO. And if I can you pull up this camera here? I don't know if you could see that or not. But Duco white PVC foam sheet, 1/8 inch thick. I get 24 by 36, so 2 foot by 3 foot. A pack of 8 for about $100. So you get 8 sheets, a little bigger than this. And it's super easy to cut with a utility knife, 3 strokes and you're through. So for plein air painting, it's super fun, super easy. For little studies, the cost is like nothing, so you could, I like painting for the frames sometimes. So if I'm at Goodwill or Wings is a really good, Wings resale they take good care of their frames. Whereas Goodwill, it's like a free-for-all. But Wings resale here in Schaumburg, and there's one in Arlington Heights. They have the frames up on top. And if you go at the right day, they're like 75% off. I got 2 12-inch by 12-inch frames that I'll be painting little paintings on. And they'll take me maybe a half hour, 45 minutes to paint a painting on these, pop it into a frame. I'll sell them for $400. And the frames were for $15. at 75% off. So I paid like $3 a frame. Yeah. So I shouldn't tell you this, but yeah, because my supply is going to run out. Yeah.
Yes, I was wondering how long you let the painting cure before you varnish it.
I'll let it dry about a week. If I put like thick paint on it, I'll touch the paint to see if it's still wet. Then I won't varnish it. I'll wait for another week. And then, but here's another challenge for you guys. If you want to get really good, paint Christmas cards. And this is a project I do every October, November. I will get a sheet of watercolor paper that's 7 by 10. And I buy the 5-pack of Arches 140-pound watercolor paper. And I cut, it's 22 by 30 is a full sheet of watercolor paper. And I'll do 10, 10, 10, and then I'll do 7, 14, 21. Then I have a strip of 1 inch that I either make bookmarks out of or throw away. But I'll get 9 cards out of a full sheet of watercolor paper. And then I take each one and I'll pencil in the 4x6 window. And then when you paint that little watercolor, then you fold the card right here and you get a really nice watercolor card that you've personalized. Now I'm painting oil paint on my watercolor paper. And that's a no-no unless you varnish or unless you prime the watercolor paper either with shellac or gesso. So my step is I'll tape out this with green frog tape and the cards, and then I'll stack these cards one on top of another. So this card is here, this card is here, 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 and the back end is underneath this one. So that's a watercolor painting that somebody will get. Not a water, it's an oil painting on watercolor paper that somebody will get. Here's my hero. I'm using the ratio 1/3, 2/3, darkest dark up against the lightest light, the warmest color. It's got a good overall composition. This one is a horizontal card. Nice U-shaped composition. There's another U-shaped composition, light, medium, and dark. Here's a vertical, nice tree. There's another vertical, nice waterfall in the thing. So I usually have 6 cards per board, and I've made 23 boards this year. So I've got 135 cards I'm painting right now, all hand painted. They'll be dry by first week of December. And then I handwrite all the notes on each one. I'll sign it. And then I'll cold wax medium this card, and then it's sealed. It's got a nice semi-gloss waxy surface that'll dry. And I've done this for 6 years now. So if you want to get good, do these little projects, and I give myself 10 minutes a card. So a full board gives me 6 cards. I complete that in an hour. And I'm just cranking these things out. And you build so much muscle memory that allows you to paint these paintings without even thinking. It's instincts. Then that's when you get into that flow state. And that flow state is what you want to be in that creative flow state. It's just, that's where you feel God's pleasure in your life. When you're painting, it's just like, oh, I could do this. And then before you know it, you've painted 3-4 hours and you think you know, you've just painted 10 minutes and 4 hours have passed. And it's an incredible feeling. So do these little projects. It will give you so much joy and pleasure, and then give them away. Don't pay for, don't charge people for them. And the act of giving them away, blesses somebody else who receives these, but then you walk away with 10 times more blessing because you've put the time and the work in developing your skill to bless other people further on down. So my blessing to you is to do this so you can bless other people. Okay. All right. Good.
I've got a couple more materials questions.
Yeah.
Again, with varnish, is retouch varnish okay to use?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the medium you use while you paint? They're asking if it's like a 50-50 of,
Walnut oil alkyd medium. It looks like that. Well, it's hard to see. But it's made by M. Graham. Walnut alkyd. So what this is walnut oil with galkyd in there. And the galkyd is a fast drying medium, and the walnut oil wants to stay wet, and the alkyd wants to dry. And there's a battle going on over about 45 minutes before this thing gets tacky. And then it's a really good surface to paint on. For thicker paint goes right over it. So 50% this, 50% Gamsol is my medium that I mix over here.
okay. And just so you know, your Christmas card list just doubled. Okay. And a couple people are asking about the workshops that you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Where exactly is the one in St. Charles?
Not St. Charles.
Oh, sorry.
I have a oil painting workshop in Scottsdale, Arizona, at the Scottsdale Art School, April 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 5 days of oil painting from 9 to 4, 9 to 5. And we will go through all of this, and you will learn so much. Every day is going to be so new. So you will actually paint one of these. You'll paint one of these on the first day. So we get the values down, we get the contrasts down, and then you've built up this exercise now to paint those next 4 days with these tools that you've just learned. And
Right.
it's a blast.
And I believe those are some of the links that you sent me that will be in that follow-up email for those
Then
workshops.
for watercolor, I am teaching at the Asilomar Conference Center in California at the end of October of next year. So 2026. This conference center is just crazy beautiful. You go out your little cabin door, and about 100 yards is the Pacific Ocean, and it's just crashing waves. And it's a plein air workshop, 5 days, but it's spectacular. I'm team teaching with Angela Fair. She's a Canadian artist, watercolorist that does incredible free-flowing paint from the heart kind of watercolor. And then I come in and I get everybody thinking about design. So the combination of Angela and I are just magic. So, and we get a WhatsApp group going. We had 30 students, about the number of people in this room. And, it's a good size for two teachers, but the combination of Angela and I are just really nice. The WhatsApp group is an app. It's called WhatsApp, but everybody's phone number is on there, and we're just texting it's like a texting communicating thing. And they're still talking about the whole thing. And this was last October. It was about a month ago we were there. And yeah, so I think 30 students is the limit that we're going to have for next year. But that's through Madeline Island School of the Arts, which is another great place up in Wisconsin, is the Apostle Islands up in Lake Superior. The biggest one is called Madeline Island. And in that island, there's a school called Madeline Island School of the Arts, which is an amazing school.
And in St. Charles, perhaps it was a plein air event?
Yes.
And where exactly is that?
That is in St. Charles direct. So sign up is probably going to be next year, early next year. I would get on their mailing list and sign up to be alerted. I think they also, if you're on Facebook, they have announcements on Facebook, but there they only take, I want to say 30, 35 artists, and they're juried in. So they look at your art and see if you're at the level of a St. Charles. But the Cedarburg one is not juried in. I would highly encourage you guys, if you want to take that next step, is sign up for Cedarburg. It's a great event.
And someone is asking if you've ever painted for Dillman's
Oh yeah,
in
Dillman's.
Wisconsin.
Dillman's, yes. Dillman's is it's a 4-day workshop up in Dillman's, northern Wisconsin. Is I'll probably be doing an oil painting workshop there in August. I think we said, yeah.
Okay. And do you have any online teaching or workshops for those folks that perhaps can't travel?
I used to be a mentor with Mastrius. Mastrius is an online kind of small group mentoring workshop. Not a workshop, but it's a consistent month to month. You meet every 2 weeks with your group, and then once a month you meet with the mentor. And then I did that for about 3 years, and it's a great service. Mastrius is, you look for, they've got about 150 mentors within that group. And you kind of, if you like somebody, you might have to join a wait list until somebody pops out, but it's about $100 a month to join that. And you get some serious painting it with that too.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Steve, I don't know if it would work, but could we put the painting that you did tonight under the camera on the table?
Yes.
So we can finish with a nice long still shot of that.
There we go.
Great. Can zoom out just a tiny bit. Great. Great. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.